Greetings, Cyclopeans. My name is Dan.
And I'm Tom.
And this is Sci-Clops Podcast 6, brought to you by At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. And we are glad to see you here. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of really cool stuff today. Movies, books, video games, shows, music.
Oh my.
And anything we talk about, we'll have links to at the bottom of this podcast and the video. You can and ask us questions as we go along. Feel free to put questions in the comments or follow or like us or subscribe to the podcast. Without further ado, we're going to get right to work with the first topic we want to cover here, which is very hot right now, is in the news. If you haven't been watching this or you haven't seen this, you're living under a rock. And with Halloween coming, creepy clowns are popping up everywhere like weeds. And we've been covering it a lot on the website. I didn't tell Tom what we were going to cover. I said, we're going to cover some news. And he just started laughing over there. I didn't tell him it was going to be creepy clowns. But everything is creepy clowns. I mean, you're on Twitter right now.
It's all Stephen King's fault.
It's all Stephen King's fault. And Killer Clowns from Outer Space. The worst movie ever made that's so bad it's awesome.
It's up there for awfulness.
It's just fantastic.
I don't know what, it's like the last 3 years, the number of clown horror movies has skyrocketed.
Oh, yeah.
That used to be like It and Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and that was it. And now it's like Eli Roth had one. There's one where a clown gets killed at a birthday party on accident, and then he comes back to kill all the kids 10 years later.
Or he puts on a clown outfit, and I think that's Clown. And I don't know if that's the Eli Roth one, but I know what you're talking about. That's one, and he comes back and they
No, that's two separate.
Oh, that's a different one. Okay, another one.
That's what I mean. They're just they skyrocketed. Clown movies are becoming an epidemic.
It's great, and people are really into clowns right now. It's the hottest thing going. And of course, with Halloween right around the corner now, it's just so hot, and everybody's it's taken off like a trend. People are dressing up like clowns and standing.
But how are we going to know who's just doing it for Halloween and who's the legitimately killer clown?
And that's the problem.
So don't dress up like clowns, people, unless you want to get axe murdered.
And we're covering it on the site all the time. It's made to major news sites, so it's easy to find stuff on it. We always have almost daily now a clown article with somebody who's either been arrested or dressed up like a clown, or there's a video. And in fact, there was a town in Mississippi that just banned clown outfits, or a county in Mississippi, because they're very concerned about, I think, what Tom just said here, is the difference between who's walking down the street with an axe and who's just doing it to screw around with everybody. But anyway, it's pretty funny. We just thought you'd get if you're watching the clown thing, if you've seen a clown, let us know at the Cyclops Clown Hotline.
Report all clown sightings immediately to your supervisor.
Go type it in the comments on one of the sites, either on our Twitter or Pinterest or Facebook or Instagram or at the website or whatever. But anyway, we just kind of laughing about the clowns, which is the hot thing right now. One day we're going to look back at this and go, remember when clowns were all over the place and everybody had to do something, and we had to pass a national clown act. So anyway, we just thought you'd get a kick out of the clown thing going on. Tom, what else have you got going on today?
Well, the big thing earlier this week was the first trailer for Logan finally dropped. And Wolverine is my favorite superhero of all time, so I was already incredibly excited for this movie. And when it looked like they were going to be adapting the Old Man Logan storyline, I was even more excited. And I was curious to see how that would translate to film. I figured they probably obviously wouldn't copy it down right to the T, because Old Man Logan uses a lot of Marvel characters that they just don't have the rights to, like Hawkeye, Captain America, But the trailer came out, and it is definitely set. They haven't said how far in the future, but it's pretty apparent it's some ways down the road. Logan's actually starting to look old. He's got, scruffy gray beard, and Professor X is still alive somehow at 120 something at this point. But it looks really dark, really gritty, and they've said it's going to be, since it's his last hurrah, it's going to be an R-rated one, and it's just looking like it's going to be Wolverine unleashed at his finest.
And we got the little girl now. Now we know who the kid is.
Yeah, and mild spoiler alert in case you're not a comic nerd, so skip ahead about 20 seconds. It's not confirmed, but the little girl is probably X-23, his female clone.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. If you read comics, you're gonna know.
But that's the nice thing about the movies. You don't have to be a comic fan to get into them. So I'm sure there's some people at least who don't know who X-23 is or what her whole deal is.
Well, it's going to be interesting too, because no matter if this movie does even decent, you'll see X-23 as one of the next films right around the corner. So that's going to be really exciting.
And the other thing is, the Mr. Sinister was announced as the main villain. But wisely, we got no Mr. Sinister in the trailer. Not even a split second, I don't think.
I don't think we did.
Which I like. I actually like that they're keeping his reveal actually for a big reveal. I was like concerned. I was convinced the last shot of the trailer was going to be like Mr. Sinister turning to look at Logan or something. But no, we got no Mr. Sinister. We got a lot of look at the Reavers. And if you don't know who the Reavers are, they're basically a marauding band of lunatics. They're like Mad Max. They're straight out of Mad Max. They just roam the countryside, killing and doing whatever for fun. And it looks like they've changed them up a little bit. They look a little bit more organized and professional, and not just a bunch of lunatics roaming around killing anybody. But it looks like they've really hit the tone of Old Man Logan on the head. I think it's going to be a crazy send-off for both Patrick Stewart, who is also in his last movie as Professor X, and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And I cannot wait for March. Cannot wait. Enough.
Let us know what you think of this in the comments. If you're pumped about this movie or what's
and if you're not, I think it's going to be
one of the hottest anticipated movies of the year. Honest to God, I think this is going to be out of the park. If this thing if it's even good, it's going to be huge. It's going to be like another Suicide Squad with the level of people running to see this. Aren't the Reavers? Quote me if I'm wrong. Aren't they also in Serenity? I'm not the same.
Totally different thing. Yeah, the Reavers are a thing in Serenity too.
I know it's not the same one.
It's like a go-to name when you just need a crazy sounding group of people. It's the Reavers. Ah!
They were the most disturbing.
I'm pretty sure they're in Conan too.
I think they are. I think there's something like that in Conan, but it's great when you know they're coming at any.
It's bad when Jane looks like he's about to crap his pants.
So we're pretty pumped about Wolverine. I want to throw one movie in there, which is The Arrival, which I'm kind of pumped about. It does almost look like a parallel with that Jodie Foster Contact, because you got the girl and the aliens are making some kind of big contact, and she's the only one who can really talk to him.
I'd forgotten about Contact. It is kind of similar.
Contact was pretty cool too. There was some neat stuff in Contact. I love the idea of you never really knew what was in the background sending all that stuff, and the general had a great point. Like, great, we build this thing and then a door opens up and the whole Vegan army pours out, and but in this one it looks like they're trying to stop a war, but the aliens look kind of cool, and it looks like it's going to be
from what we. I like the whole not giving it all away. We see the silhouette kind of the aliens, but not like what they actually look like.
And this goes to what you were saying before, which is don't give the stuff away, because we're anticipating with Logan. We're not seeing Mr. Sinister. And if we are, I apologize if there was some frame in there where they gave it away, because I know some of the sites have actually analyzed this.
Yeah, frame by frame. I only watched it the one time,
but they haven't given anything major away, so that's exciting. And you hate that you go in and you're like, oh man. And it's one of the hardest things in this business is everything by the time you reach the movie most of the time. Like, I'm not ever able to hide and say, well, I didn't see any of the trailers, because that's never going to happen again for me.
Yeah.
But it's cool when they don't give too much away, and I hope that if anybody out there listening in the major studios is consider that. Don't give all the stuff away early on. Put some.
You got to leave people a reason to want to go see it.
Yeah, put a reason some element of mystery in there. So anyway, there's a couple of really good movies coming down the pike, which is Logan and this Arrival, which looks pretty good. And so I'm pretty pumped about that, and it's a really good sci-fi coming down. And there's horror movies up there, Yin Yang too.
Oh yeah, it's Halloween season, so
Halloween season is here. So what else have you got there, Tom?
Well, in television news anyway, I've caught up once again with Flash. Episode 3. It looks like they're expanding on the whole aspect of Barry trying to figure out what's different with the new change altered timeline, and alchemy is coming to the forefront as a villain, and they haven't established how, but somehow alchemy remembers both timelines just like Barry does, and is doing his best to alter things back to the way they were in the Flashpoint universe. And we don't know why, but he's finding people who had powers in Flashpoint, and they don't anymore, and he's giving them their powers back, and he's kind of resetting their memory so they have it all back, but we don't really know to what end. I mean, he's obviously the bad guy, but his end game isn't anywhere even close to being apparent yet. All we know is he's just aware of all the timeline changes and is doing his best to fix that. And I like that, again, now that they've gotten the rival out of the way, the villain isn't just another evil version of Barry that can run 1 billion miles an hour, and, Barry has to try to outrun the new speedster. So this is kind of nice that Barry has to actually find him a villain that is going to present new challenges. Also within the DC TV universe, I caught up with Legends of Tomorrow, and that has replaced Arrow as my second favorite DC TV show, because Arrow is still kind of struggling to get back to its premiere status that it had in seasons 1 and 2. But Legends of Tomorrow, after a rocky first half of season 1, really pulled it together and gave us a great show. And season 2 looks to be continuing that trend. And I don't want to give anything away, but there are some shakeups to the Legends roster. One I did not see coming at all, and another one that is a nice addition to the cast. The Legion of Doom aspect of it, with Reverse Flash, Damian Dark, and the 2 other members that haven't made their on-screen appearance yet, is really fun. They've been keeping them in the background, so the Legends haven't met them yet, which I like too. We don't, we're saving that big confrontation for probably the mid-season finale or something. But it's nice to see a lot of the older characters that fans don't, unless they're diehard comic fans, won't recognize, like the Justice Society of America, the 1940s version of the Justice League. Our Man, Rex Tyler, or I'm sorry, that's the same guy. Our Man, Obsidian, Stargirl, all these classic 1940s heroes that you don't really hear much of anymore are making their comebacks. Hopefully for more than just this initial appearance, because that was a lot of fun seeing them.
And classic comic book fans are going to be so excited about that.
Yeah.
To see those if they're following these shows, and hopefully they will. They really got to market.
It's funny, Smallville, when it was still on, did a two-parter, I think, with the Justice Society. That was actually pretty good. So we know it works, and DC, the Legends of Tomorrow did really well here too. I have also caught up with Arrow. It's definitely better than season 4. Not quite back to season 1 or 2 where I can't wait for the next episode. But it's definitely an improvement. Oliver's trying to get back to basics with being a hero and establish a new team to help him. And we've seen the addition of Mr. Terrific, Curtis Holt, the new Black Canary, and I'm not sure. There's a character, Wild Dog, who I'm not at all familiar with. He might be a creation for the TV show. But it looks like Oliver's trying to get back to his, street-level heroics with a new team, because he can't be the mayor of Star City and the Green Arrow and, juggle both of that without dropping something. So, I'm cautiously optimistic that Arrow's, on the right track to getting back to its grounded roots, where you weren't like, how is he fighting an army of Special Forces guys without getting
18
shot?
Special Forces guys with high-tech weapons and shooting and all of that. And so you're liking that a little bit better now, Arrow.
Yeah, it's improvement.
Good, because I'd like to see that show stay. I think there's a lot of spin-off, a lot of crossover going on now.
With that 4-way crossover that's coming that looks like it's going to be bonkers.
And we don't ever get on here to beat up a show. It doesn't help any of the genre when one of these shows goes down in flames. So you really want the show to succeed. And especially because you enjoy it too. You watch it and you follow it now for 4 or 5 seasons. You're like, oh no, what if they take a nosedive? But it looks like it hasn't. It's doing better.
It took a nosedive. And they're slowly course correcting.
It's course correcting. What I mean is not staying in the nosedive.
Yeah.
But it's course correcting, and that's exciting news, because we don't want to see it. We don't want to see Arrow do bad. And they can always fix it, and people keep watching. What else you got there too?
That's all I got for DC television. In terms of Marvel, I haven't finished Luke Cage. I've finished the first 4 episodes now. I'm trying to pace myself. I really dig it. I was a little, not concerned, but Luke Cage is one of those lesser-known heroes. I was wondering how they were going to make a whole 13-episode season about him work. And they've found a way to do it beautifully. He's found himself in Harlem, trying to put some distance between what happened during Jessica Jones and himself, and just try to live a normal life. Predictably, that does not end well for him. But they've done a really excellent job of 4 episodes in still, and they're maintaining a lot of the mystery about what exactly happened to lead him to become Luke Cage. We know he was falsely in prison for something he didn't do. We don't know what that is yet, anyway. And the big flashback episode, which I think was episode 4, shows you how he gets his powers and, the living hell he lived through while he was in prison. Mm-hmm. And I like it. Even though they did this big exposition-y reveal on everything, they left enough unsaid where, there's still a lot of mystery with the character, and it's not like, okay, here's everything we need to know about him, now let's just go watch him beat people up for the next 8 episodes.
Avoid bullets.
It is interesting, though, because he's a hero that is almost unkillable. He's got the unbreakable skin, the super strength.
Right. I was thinking about he just can't fly yet.
Yeah, he never could.
Yeah.
But he's like Superman without any of the extra stuff. He's got the super strength, the unbreakable skin. And it's interesting because in the past Netflix seasons, the hero, or at least the villain, had a way to make themselves a legitimate threat to the hero. Mm-hmm. In Daredevil, he's got the sonar vision thing, but he's still just a guy. You hit him in the head with the 2x4, he's going down.
Yeah.
And Jessica Jones, she had the super strength, but her skin, you shot her, she was still going to go down. Right. And David Tennant, as the villain, could literally make anyone do anything. Right. So he had, an army of sleeper agents, potentially.
Even Flash and Arrow have, they're guys.
Yeah.
You can beat them up all the time.
But it's interesting because Cottonmouth, so far, anyways, 4 episodes in, I don't know what they're going to do with him, is just a gangster. Mm-hmm. He's got an army of goons, but they're just an army of goons. Bullets can't do anything to him. At one point, he gets literally shot with a rocket launcher and shrugs it off.
Yeah, so...
So that's my only concern, is how they're going to create a credible threat to him in a way that doesn't feel like it's just kind of forced.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Like I said, Netflix has never been wrong yet. So I like the fact that there is this concern of what are you going to do to the guy? He's almost unkillable.
It's like they're building him up.
Yeah, they're building him up, which means when they finally introduce whoever is gonna take him on, it's gonna be a bad day for Luke Cage.
And you're thinking it'll either be Cottonmouth coming up with somebody or something like almost like a kryptonite or a guy who is just as bad as Luke Cage as Cottonmouth employs.
Well, there's a character they haven't introduced yet, Diamondback, who's kind of like he's the boogeyman of the criminal underworld in New York. Cottonmouth does not want to mess with him. The character Shades works for him and is kind of influencing what Cottonmouth does because Diamondback is his weapon supplier. So I'm betting that when Diamondback finally makes an on-screen appearance, it's going to be bad for Luke.
So that's the Marvel side looking pretty good too. Netflix once again hitting it out of the park with another great show. And what else do you got on the list there?
For television, in general, we have Fear the Walking Dead is going to be doing another series of webisodes.
Great.
That I think Walking Dead also did this too, where they're just like kind of mini snippets of story. They're like a couple minutes long, tops.
I love stuff like that.
But the thing is, Walking Dead did this too, and they didn't really affect the overall plot that much. They did kind of, because the first series of webisodes for Walking Dead. Have you seen the first episode of Walking Dead?
Not Fear the Walking Dead. Just
The Walking Dead. Remember when he finds the walker that's missing its lower half?
Yes.
And it's just crawling along? Yep. The first series of episodes is about her and how she winds up there.
I missed that. I would love to see that.
I would recommend going back to see it. So it's a fun little thing that does intersect with the main show, but not really in a way that's meaningful. It was just a cool little thing they did. Mm-hmm. But Fear the Walking Dead's webisodes actually introduced a character that is now a main character on the show.
Cool.
So I like that these webisodes for Fear the Walking Dead, anyway, actually do have ramifications on a large scale for the TV show. And I believe the last set of webisodes was called Flight 462, and these ones are going to be called Passage. So they haven't released anything about what it's going to be about yet, but I believe it's coming out in the near future, because now Fear the Walking Dead, I believe, has finished up its Season 2, and so this will probably be on in the interim before Season 3 comes out.
Where can you find? Are these on YouTube?
I'm pretty sure AMC will put these out on their official website.
Okay. We'll check and see if we can get a link up for you for where these, if they're out right now anywhere, and I'll see if we can get it at the bottom of this podcast, because that's pretty cool. It sounds almost like what they did with the original Clone Wars Star Wars cartoons.
Back in 2003, yep, the little snippets, which were fantastic.
And with the Matrix, with the Animatrix, which really, really filled in a lot of great holes. It wasn't even holes in the Matrix, which is a really great pre-story. Like
universe expanding.
Yeah. So you knew how they actually burned the sky and everything like that. So I love when they do that, when they flesh out a story, and it's you also they never used to do that. You never used to see that back in the day. It just like they threw it out there.
I don't really think that there was the budget for it.
I don't know, maybe.
I think once TV had I remember watching like old 90s shows and like the graphics are just like, oh my god, laughable. But that's because A, the technology's improved, and B, I think budgets have gotten bigger for this kind of thing now that there's a proven market for it. And you never really saw too much in the way of, I'm sure it must have happened at some point. Someone must have thought this was cool.
One of the first ones to do that was, I'm going back to the writing too. The really good writing was like Serenity. When Serenity came out, here's Serenity again. We're talking about it a lot today.
Can you believe that show is 14 years old?
14 years old, but one of the best written shows of all. You just didn't leave a Serenity episode going, boy, I wonder how that happened. Or there was a huge hole that you could drive a truck through. Or
the thing that still bothers me about Serenity is. Firefly is that A, it's over and we only got one season.
Yeah, Firefly.
But
sorry.
B, they left a lot unsaid. Remember the guys with the blue gloves?
Yeah, but I think that wasn't the fault of the writer.
No, that's what I mean.
They just canceled the show.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's a lot of stuff that he put in there that he would have expanded on in season 2.
And
we just never got that.
Like they did a Luke Cage. Like if they canceled it after a first season, you'd be like, well, where did he come from and how did this happen and blah blah blah. We need some more seasons, and that's what makes seasons fun. And you're right. But we'll never see that again. I think we covered that on the website.
Well, the thing is, as annoying as it is, there isn't really any big holes that you need to answer.
No, there's no holes. But the fans would go crazy for more Firefly, Serenity stuff.
Well, I mean, they can't really do it anymore. They killed off 2 characters.
Yeah, and they said in the article we put up, they said they're done. They're not going to do anything. I
get it. It's 14 years. They don't. Yeah. Let's move on.
It's cool. I mean, you got to end some stuff occasionally. You just got to say, okay, it's over, and it's still a great story. You just don't keep going with it over and over because you risk the chance of damaging the storyline and just pushing it too far, and then suddenly it just becomes silly. Who's gone on forever? Doctor Who. What are we now? 40 years into that?
Oh, that's time travel. They can keep
fun.
They can keep rewriting whatever they want.
They can keep going with that forever and ever and ever.
I remember some days I'll watch an episode and I'll think to myself, how? The timeline is so screwed up, and then I just stop and I'm like, I'm gonna blood will come out of my eyes if I try to rationalize this.
It's one of the few
just let it go.
Where you've gone on for decades and just nobody cares. They're just like, yeah, whatever, we'll just keep going. Who cares?
Well, the thing is, it'd be one thing if they just kept going, but it's actually still good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
A lot of fun. It's always fun with Doctor Who, and which takes us into your next thing that you got.
Well, out of TV and into comics, there's actually a lot of big news comic-wise from Marvel. Marvel has been systematically killing off its X-Men, mutants, and all of them. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories that it's because Fox still owns the rights to the X-Men franchise. So Marvel's plan is to tank the X-Men franchise so it's worth nothing. And then Fox will finally just sell it back to them, and they can introduce mutants into their...
I haven't heard that yet.
I've heard this conspiracy theory, and I thought it was awesome. I thought it was stupid at first, but that's what they did with the Fantastic Four.
What do you listeners think of that?
Yeah,
put a comment in there. We got to see if anyone heard
Marvel
that.
literally ended the Fantastic Four comic.
Yeah.
As a giant middle finger to Fox because they said, "Fine, you're gonna keep making awful Fantastic Four movies. No more Fantastic Four comics. We're gonna bury the brand until you have nothing left." And then you'll finally give it back to us, and then maybe we'll make a Fantastic Four comic again.
They were pretty bad. So
they were awful.
Oh
the newest one maybe almost... I didn't even see it. Just the trailers for it made me want to throw my computer out the window.
I remember that one with... And this isn't beating up on Jessica Alba or any of those guys. It was just that particular movie. There was just this dead space in it. You were watching it. It was like, doop, dee-doop.
Yeah.
Like, oh, come on here,
But Marvel's been doing the same thing with the X-Men franchise. They introduced the Inhumans, who are sort of X-Men-y, in that they have a certain gene in them that it triggers their powers. But unlike the X-Men have their powers since birth. Inhumans only get their powers if exposed to a certain chemical.
Right.
Long story short, a character introduces this chemical to the atmosphere, and any Inhuman that comes in contact with it develops their powers, but has a side effect of killing mutants. So the mutant population drops incredibly, huge in terms of how many are on the planet. There's barely any left. It's pretty much the X-Men and a few other rogue mutants here and there. And it really does kind of start to feel like Marvel really was trying to just end the X-Men franchises because, and the Inhumans were their replacement. Okay, well, the X-Men are gone, but here's the Inhumans. And so there's only 3 X-Men books right now. Extraordinary, Uncanny, and All New. And that sounds like a lot. You have 3 titles, but really, that's it. The characters in those X-Men books are pretty much almost the only mutants left on the planet. But now Marvel's been recently teasing this thing called Resurrection with an X in it.
Mm-hmm.
And they've announced a whole slew of new X-Men titles. Jean Grey is getting her own solo series. Iceman, for the first time in his 50-year run, I think, is getting a solo series. Yeah. And there's an interesting one, Weapon X, is getting its own series. And I don't think that it's going to be about a particular character. I think it's going to be about a team called Weapon X. And I think they just announced another one, which was Generation X, which is an older title that they're bringing back. So it sort of feels like Marvel's starting to ratchet the X-Men titles back up again. And I'm wondering if it is because A, people are just super pissed that they've been, killing off all the mutants left and right, or B, is this a sign that maybe they've come to some kind of an agreement with Fox and they've said, okay, we'll ease off. But I find it interesting that all of a sudden Marvel's like, because we're still in the middle of a miniseries called Death of X, which is about how Cyclops and some of the other mutants die. Yeah. And now right after Death of X ends, we're even probably beginning to be getting this Resurrection storyline. So it'll be interesting to see what that means, I think, for the mutants in the Marvel Universe in general. But I'm looking forward to it.
What do you think they're going to do with Jean Grey? Because,
it's
I
interesting.
Still go back to the days when she became the Phoenix and gone. And
because this is Jean Grey. They did this whole storyline a couple of years ago where Cyclops lost his mind and actually kills Professor X. He's possessed by the Phoenix Force and kills Professor X. And Beast decides this is ridiculous. The mutants, the X-Men in general, have had so much tragedy that could have been avoided if we just, all worked together. So Beast actually rips the X-Men from the past, the original team. Beast, Angel, Jean Grey, Iceman, and Cyclops. He rips them from the past to the present to show them what happens, so that, as kind of a warning. But he runs into a problem. He got them here, but he doesn't have a way to get them home. So there's literally, in some cases, there's two Jean Grey. Oh no, sorry, because Jean Grey's still dead. So there's a new Jean Grey who's a teenager. For a while there was two Cyclopses. There's two Beasts, two Angels, and two Icemen running around the Marvel Universe. And that's what the all-new X-Men book is about. It's about most of those young guys with a few other ones. But the Jean Grey series is going to be about this teenage Jean Grey who's in the present.
Okay.
So it's interesting because Jean has obviously a humongous amount of history with a lot of characters, not even just X-Men. But she doesn't know any of this history because for her it's all the future. They actually did a storyline that was great when they first brought them in. It was the trial of Jean Grey. The Shi'ar Empire... the aliens that the Phoenix decimates when she first turns into the Phoenix put her on trial for the murder of all their citizens she killed. But the problem is this Jean hasn't done that yet. But they're like, doesn't matter, same person. She's held responsible, and that was basically the whole basis of the trial was, yes, this is Jean Grey, but this is not the Jean Grey that murdered, all. And it was a fun little twist they did. So I think it'll be cool to watch Jean Grey get her own series. She must have had her own series at some point in her.
I don't know. I
can't think of it off the top of my head.
Reading anything off. But I'm just curious to know what they were going to do, and for the fans too, if anybody hasn't been following her too closely, because it's interesting to see how they will resurrect a character, and they do a good job of it a lot.
That's the running gag in comic book death is that no one's ever really
nobody's ever dead.
No one's ever dead. For the longest time though, Kraven the Hunter in Spider-Man was just dead.
Dead.
He was dead. For ever. And I was like, wow, they're really just going to keep this guy. Nope, he's back. But for the longest time, he was gone. I'm actually surprised they've kept Wolverine dead for 2 years.
Do you listeners have anybody you'd like to see in the Marvel or DC universe gone? Because it's curious, if they kill him based on flagging sales on the comic books, or if they kill him just to keep people on their toes, or if you guys have anybody, have you ever written Marvel or DC and said, hey, get rid of this character? Back in the day when I love that when the letters come in, you read the letters, and the people used to write to Stan Lee and all that, and anybody you'd like to see, or let us know in the comments. It's kind of fun to see who the fans currently hate or love.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. And in DC comic news, this isn't as nearly a big a thing as the whole Resurrection thing, but a series I'm really looking forward to, Super Sons, is coming out in February. Finally, they haven't really given us definitive release window on it. It's going to be about the two sons of Batman and Superman. Ooh. Batman's son is Damian Wayne, and the new Superman from the alternate universe has a son named John. and John's beginning to develop his father's powers, and his dad's trying to teach him how to be a hero. And Batman has had a whole troubled history with his kid, and it's gonna be. I think it'll be a fun. I believe it's.
Don't kill your bullies at school.
Yeah, no, that's the hilarious thing. He was raised by Ra's al Ghul in the League of Assassins, so literally that was the first thing Batman had to do. He like stopped killing bad guys. That was the whole initial shtick with Damian. I think this will be fun because Batman and Superman, within the context of New 52, they didn't always agree, but they got along fairly well, and they trusted each other. But this is a new Superman from an alternate universe, and Batman, A, is just getting over the fact that his friend just died, and B, he doesn't really trust this new Superman yet. So finding out that he has a kid who's developing his powers...
He's got a second Superman to deal with.
He puts him on edge.
Awesome.
And so I think it'll be a fun dynamic. They haven't really... It's called Super Sons. It's obviously about John and Damian more than it is about Batman and Superman, but it'll be interesting to see how much the two of them appear in the comic.
Lining us up for another generation of Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, really.
With the dad and the kids duking it out.
So now we have an homicide. Well, now that's who Batman really was in Batman versus Superman. It was Damian killing everybody, not Bruce.
So you've got when is that coming out? You know?
February 2017.
Cool, February. Okay, because I know that we'll be covering that very closely when that comes out. I'm sitting here on the desk with all the piles of comics. What else have you got there?
Well, out of the realm of comics and TV and into video game news.
Video games.
TitanFall 2, which is the sequel to Titanfall, is coming out October 28th, and Titanfall 1 was previously an Xbox exclusive, but this one's going to be on Xbox and PS4.
Awesome.
And this tickles a lot of my nerd things in that it's a first-person shooter, but it also involves giant robot suits to run around and blow people up in.
Yep.
So that's like my Gundam days from the 90s coming up. Yeah, everybody has their own Titan. And I am very excited because I didn't have an Xbox at the time the original Titanfall came out, and when I finally got one, I was like thinking about buying Titanfall, but there was the rumblings that 2 was going to be pretty soon, so I'm like, I'll just hold off and see if 2 is going to come out. And they finally did confirm 2 is coming out. And this time, unlike the first game, there's going to be a single-player campaign, which I like. I'm generally not a fan of games that are only multiplayer, but I think it's a sequel, so they've learned what does work, what doesn't work, and just the idea of giant robots shooting death matches are fun for me anyway. So I will be picking that pretty much on launch day on the 28th, and I will definitely be getting my impressions on that.
We will definitely be talking about that one.
Another one, DragonBall Xenoverse, comes out the 25th of October, and I love Dragon Ball Z. I've probably seen every episode at least 5 or 6 times. I thought the idea of Xenoverse was pretty fun. You play a player-created character this time, and someone is messing with the timeline, altering it, and your character has to go back into the past and keep the timeline intact. And so it's a fun treat for fans of the franchise because we know how everything's supposed to play out, and now you've got to keep it that way. My only real knock against it was there was a lot of characters I felt missing from the first game, and a lot of potential storylines that would have been really cool to see that we didn't get because there was only, I think, about 50 some odd characters in the game. And 2's coming out. In addition to a bunch of gameplay features they announced they're changing, there's, I think, going to be about 90 characters in this one. So they've ratcheted up the potential storylines a lot for playing. Like they've included Turles, Cooler, and a bunch of other stuff. Lord Slug, a lot of the movie villains that didn't make it into the first game. So I'm very excited for that, and I'll also be picking that up on launch day for giving my impressions on that. But the biggest video game news in a long time is Nintendo has finally announced the next console. The long-rumored Nintendo NX has finally been revealed. And
was that trending yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow.
The website crashed. Woo! They had so much traffic.
Yeah, and it's a good thing it didn't happen today, because if you're following the news, we're on the day on Friday, and there's a massive DDoS attack going on. Don't we hand off the internet to the global village? I think at the beginning of the month we handed off control of the internet. Bang! First thing that happens 2-3 weeks later is we get a DDoS attack. Not sure if it's related, but it sure is coincidental. But a lot of sites down right now. So if it had been introduced today, it would have been a real mess. But you're covering the. And
so it's now officially revealed. It's not the NX is actually called the Switch, and it looks like at first like a tablet, like imagine a 3DS almost twice as big, but it's a single piece. And
Cool.
It can play everything handheld, and then it has a dock it comes with, and you put it in the dock, which is attached to your TV, and it switches from the tablet screen to your TV screen, and you can play on your TV. So it literally can do both.
Yeah.
And which they kind of started with the Wii U, with the gamepad could play the stuff on the TV, but the problem is the gamepad had to remain, like 15 or 20 feet around the TV, or it didn't work because it needed to stay connected to the Wii U. This one, you can just take it anywhere you want. The weird thing is, this will be interesting. The Switch has two controllers on the sides, which literally slide off, and you can use them for local multiplayer like Mario Kart or Mario Party or something like that. But they will also have traditional controllers that you just hold in your hand like regular to go with it.
Okay.
And I'm very excited because this thing sounds like Nintendo has finally decided to make a console with a graphical meat of something more similar to a PS4 or an Xbox.
Yep.
Because it's going to be able to run the Unreal 4 engine, which is the stuff like Gears of War 4 runs the Unreal 4 engine.
Yep.
So that sounds like Nintendo is really stepping up in terms of their graphics. And the Wii U was definitely a step in the right direction. But you can definitely tell when a game would come out for Wii U and PS4 or Xbox, the Xbox and the PS4 just had a graphical edge. But this one, obviously the trailer for the game has just demo images, but I think this thing is going to be awesome.
We've always liked the Wii, haven't we? Because we got a Wii right here.
Yeah,
we're looking at one right now.
We have the Wii. I have the Wii U. Nintendo.
I love the graphics on that Wii. It's been a nice video game graphics. Very, I can't really put into words. The graphics are relaxing. I don't know, something about
they're
artsy.
They're like little watercolor paintings sometimes. A lot of the game, like Zelda Wind Waker and stuff like that.
Easy on the eye.
But I think this will be fun. Nintendo has always made excellent first-party games. Starbox, Mario, Zelda, all the Nintendo franchises. There's a few duds here and there, but when it comes to first-party stuff, Nintendo usually hits a home run.
Right.
But the problem with a lot of the Wii U and Wii U support was there was not a ton of third-party support for it. So the games that were third-party support were like, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which really, who's going to get that on a Wii U over a PS4 or a PS, if you have that. But Nintendo also released a picture detailing all the studios that they have actively collaborating with on games for. And it's a lot of the big AAA studios, Ubisoft, EA, Bethesda, Capcom, all these big studios that they're working with. So it looks like, in addition to their excellent first-party stuff, Nintendo really is going to be ratcheting up the third-party support for this thing, which is good, because I will always love Nintendo franchises, but it's kind of nice to branch out, and maybe you'll get some new IPs from other studios like Bethesda. A Bethesda game specifically made for the new Nintendo console I think would be fantastic.
Too cool.
Bethesda does great work. But I'm really looking forward to this thing when it finally drops in March, which is pretty soon. And I can't wait for that. I'll probably pick that up, if not at launch, very soon after. Do you have any particular Wii games you're anticipating that you want to get early on for that, or anything you're really pumped about? Or? I don't know. The game that they've been teasing us with for years is the new Zelda game, Breath of the Wild. Yeah. And I was going to grab that sucker the second it came out, but now they released teaser footage of it with the Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure because it uses game cartridges, not discs. So I doubt highly that it'll be backwards compatible with the Wii U, which is kind of a shame because most Nintendo consoles, aside from going from GameCube to N64, were backwards compatible with the previous generation. Mm-hmm. So I don't really see how that will work with this one. But if Breath of the Wild comes out for both the the Switch now, and the Wii U, I will probably be getting on the Switch if they come out at the same time, because I'll probably upgrade from the Wii U to the Switch when it comes out, which is a shame because I love my Wii U, but the Switch has me drooling.
Yeah. And it's very exciting though, because this is so anticipated. I mean, like we were saying yesterday, the internet just about came to a halt. It was so huge yesterday. It was all over the place as soon as that game dropped.
The trailer came out, I think, around or
right about the same time that the Logan trailer dropped.
And when I watched the trailer around 10:30 or 11, it was already up to like 500,000 views, and it was just
we had it up really quick, and it was really exciting. It's so cool to see all this. Again, it's a great time to be a nerd. It's a great time to be a geek. It's a great time to be alive.
Yeah. Oh no, what video game console do I want to buy next?
So much cool stuff going on. You just have an endless supply of joy coming in from the internet. So. What else have you got there? You've got so much stuff to talk about today. We're all over the board. See?
Well, actually, I thought I was done with comics, but I'm going to slip back to
no, it's okay.
comics for a second.
I got a ton of topics still coming up.
So my two comics I picked one DC and one Marvel to talk about this week. I picked one franchise that's just starting and one that's kind of winding down. The infamous Iron Man series by Brian Michael Bendis, who has written the current run of Invincible Iron Man and International Iron Man.
Yep.
Just came out, and in a weird twist, Dr. Doom is becoming the new Iron Man after Tony Stark's mysterious happenstance after Civil War II. Civil War II really started off great, and then it's kind of getting weird because they're extending how long it's going to last, and it really feels like they're trying to shoehorn everything in to fit Civil War II, which is it's fine. It's a big universe-wide event, so it should have ramifications in pretty much everything. But the one thing they were never clear on is why Tony Stark isn't going to be Iron Man anymore. There's the new character Riri Williams they're introducing, who's going to be the new. She's called Ironheart. And now Dr. Doom is stepping into the mantle of Iron Man, and it's because something, we don't know what, happened to Tony Stark. And we get the impression in the infamous Iron Man that it was not something good. So Dr. Doom's always been kind of that villain where, yes, he's evil, yes, he wants to control the world, but he's always had a moral code. He won't attack people when they're down, and if somebody does him a favor or saves his life, he owes him one. So he's one of the more, I guess, trustworthy, in air quotes, villains in the Marvel Universe. And ever since Secret Wars ended, Reed Richards brought the Marvel Universe back. And when he brought Dr. Doom back into it, he fixed his face. Dr. Doom's always worn that mask because he's have a hideously disfigured face. And so now we see Victor as he would have looked if he hadn't had the accident that, disfigured him. And it looks like Doom's been doing some soul searching and questioning really why he was a villain all this time. And he's decided it's his mission to fix as much as he can the wrongs he's done to the world. And he says he can't keep doing this operating in the shadows thing because he'd been talking to Tony Stark, trying to mentor him and help him through some stuff, but always on the down low, not really keeping himself out of it. So he's decided that this whole operating in the shadows thing won't fix things nearly fast enough. So he's decided to take on the mantle of Iron Man.
Cool.
And it's hilarious because he runs into an AI construct of Tony when he's in his lab, and he tells the AI construct what he's going to do, and the AI construct is begging with him to not call himself Iron Man. And he's going to do it anyway. So it's definitely an interesting premise for a series. I think Brian Michael Bendis writes some great stuff, and I think if he decides to keep the AI construct of Tony around as kind of like a sounding board for the Dr. Doom, I think that would be kind of funny. I
love that AI construct in the movies. It's so cool.
So this will be interesting. It's only issue 1. It's definitely off to a good start. There's still a lot of the lingering questions of what's really going on and why does Doom have an Iron Man suit to begin with? Because he doesn't steal one; he has one. So it's something he clearly had been building already.
Is that cover a mix between the two?
Yes,
that's a great cover.
It is a great cover.
We'll have it up. You'll see the little comic cover.
So I'm definitely looking forward to Infamous Iron Man, and the other series this one by DC is the Injustice Gods Among Us Year 5.
Another great cover.
That's the one thing. Injustice fell off a cliff after Tom Taylor left the series. Year 4 was kind of and Year 5 really just went full-on nosedive straight into the ground at 100 miles an hour. Awful. The thing I think they did is they're making this comic, and they have a set period of time to work with. The comic started at, let's say, point A, and then at point B, where the video game starts, there's a 5-year gap.
Okay.
So they have to fill in that 5-year gap. And they were doing that excellently with years 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, this is really cool. It explains why a lot of characters were the way they were when the game starts. But we're into year 5 now, and a lot of the characters aren't where they needed to be to match the video game. In the video game, Cyborg is full on evil. Raven's gone all demony and is torturing people, and it's just they weren't there yet. Cyborg still looked normal. Raven was just barely getting back into the franchise. Okay. And I think they kind of realized, oh god, we have to hit, point B in, 13 issues. And then they just, speeded through everything. And they're just trying to catch up to where they need to be. Yep. And it's making for some really sloppy storytelling. And I'm actually sad to say I'm kind of glad we're winding down with this and this is over.
So this is one of the first times you're kind of unhappy with the comic right now. You generally like it.
It's because I generally stop reading what I don't like, and I hope that I hope people who read my comic reviews don't think I'm just trying to gush over everything. But by and large, if I don't like a series, I don't read it.
And that's a really quick side note to the listeners. We generally don't get on here to beat stuff up. We're not about that. And if we're beating, like right now, I think we're beating up Injustice a little bit because it's nosedive, and we were into it. But I won't do it. I will usually not talk about something I don't like. Because I just don't feel there's any point in it. I don't want to just go beat somebody up. And, there's plenty I do like. So
every series has stinkers now and then. Yeah. It's hard for a series to be perfect.
I come from a music background. Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Van Halen all made stinkers. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody makes a stinker.
But they've said that there is going to be a new set of comics for Injustice 2 when that video game comes out. Yep. And I believe that Tom Taylor is returning to that, which is great because Tom Taylor is fantastic, and I don't think I've ever read anything by him that I didn't like. He's doing the all-new Wolverine right now in Marvel, and I love it. But I really think it's not so much a reflection on who's working on the series as it is they had a definitive timetable they had to hit, and they wanted to tell some more stories, but they just didn't have the time, and they had to rush now to finish it in. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really the biggest detriment to this series has been that they have to hit a certain point in a certain amount of time. And, I'll definitely check out the second series of comics when it comes out, not just because Tom Taylor is in it, but because I love this alternate Injustice universe that they've done. But, I'm sad to say that this one is one I'm glad to see has run its course. And I think they have one more annual coming out called Ground Zero, and then that'll be it for until the next batch of comics comes out for the second game.
Is that all you're reading for now, then?
That's all I've got for this thing. I'll be doing my weekly reviews, which I'll have more stuff up for that.
And, of course, we'll have, if you guys have any particular comics you're reading, let us know in the comments. We love to see what everybody else is reading, too, what they think is hot. Do you like this new Injustice, or the Injustice, what are we on, issue 20 there?
Issue 20, year 5.
20. If you like it or don't like it, let us know. I'm going to jump right into, if I can take a moment, I'm going to jump right into what I have just put up a review on Sci-Clops.com of Star Wars Aftermath by Chuck Wendig. I mentioned I was reading that, and Tom, you gave me this book. Thank you very much. I also am very angry with you because I lost a real lot of sleep reading this book because it was that good. To summarize, if anyone out there is a Tom Clancy fan, you've read Clancy, right? And you buy a Tom. I remember going out to buy Clancy books, and I would get them the day they would come out. I remember you would find out a Clancy book was coming, and I'd run down to the local store near me, and I'd just grab the Clancy book off the shelf, and I was so psyched. I had what was the paperback at least. And I'd run home, and I remember thinking, that's it for sleep. I'm going to be up till 4 o'clock in the morning, because and even then it would take you 3 days to finish the book, because Clancy wrote these gigantic books, mega detailed, really exciting. And here, this gentleman, Chuck Wendig, who I've never read before until now, they're not mega detailed and they're not huge, but they're really exciting, and that's what makes this a real page turner. It's this Star Wars Aftermath, of course. It takes place right after, Return of the Jedi, and we go straight into action. Chapter 1, almost, very, very well done. You open up the pages and bang, you're off and running. Laser bolts flying, ships going all over the place. Yay! A lot of stories in here, a lot of little stories going on. He covers the rebels, trying to mop up the remains of the Empire. The Empire is down but not out, believe it or not, which makes sense. We talked about this last podcast because they blew up the Death Star, they blew up the Executor, but they didn't get all those other ships.
There's a lot of Star Destroyers out there.
There's a lot of Empire presence in the galaxy still. So even while the planets are stepping up and throwing them out, still a lot of presence. These guys got a heck of a lot of firepower. So it's a really good story about how the rebels are trying to maintain control while trying to build a new government, while trying to stop the Empire. And the Empire is also, on their end, having a lot of internal fighting, which is typical for the Empire. And they're, in short, they're having a secret meeting on a planet. The Empire, some of the big heads of the Empire who are still commanding some pretty powerful weapons. One of them has a super Star Destroyer of her own, and she is commanded or set up this secret meeting. And the rebels accidentally find out about it. And she has caught the rebels who found out about it, which turns out to be Wedge Antilles. And so it's a lot of fun. He's not doing so well in this book, but it's also, we bring in bounty hunters. We bring in a very quick look at Han and Chewie. I had mentioned in the review that there's a real lot going on here. You're in and out of a lot of stories. All the chapters are full of action. I wish he had fleshed out a couple more. He kind of brought a couple things in there and stuck them in there and said, like, here's Han and Chewie for a minute, and then we're gone. And we'll see in another book. And that's okay. It's all right. But it was kind of like, oh, darn, I would have liked to know more about what was going on there. But still, there's so much going on in this book. You will not... I hope you'll find it as exciting as I did. You will not be able to put it down. The summary is, trapped on an isolated world, a disparate group of rebels is all that stands between the galaxy's freedom and the Empire's fury. I think I read that last time, but it's still pretty cool. So that was the book I'm reading. I just finished that, got a review up. And anything you're looking for, if we mention anything here, go to the top of the website, upper right-hand corner. There's a little magnifying glass up there. Type in, if you type in Aftermath or whatever, you'll see it. You'll get the page. Really quick, too, because we're all over the place today. We've got so much stuff. We're trying to go through it quick for you because we don't like to drag on too much about anything. It's one topic, but trying to cover as much as we can. Speaking of Star Wars, I have also finished Clone Wars Season 4, and I'm into Season 5. And for those of you who haven't seen it, and I figure there's probably a lot of people who haven't seen them all yet, we're into the return of Darth Maul. I don't think I'm giving too much away there, but I heard about this years ago, and I would not even bother to look at it. And finally I got around to watching it again, and I said, okay, here comes Darth Maul. Let's see what they do. And it's really cool. I was awesome. Quite surprised. There's still a part of me that's like, okay, he got chopped in half and fell 900 feet down a chute, but still, what they do with this is really good. It's very well done. It's not stupid, and it brings in a lot of really interesting character development. Maul, another new Sith wannabe or apprentice or whatever you want to call it. He's got a brother in here who finds him. And they talk about Asajj Ventress, who does a surprising. I don't want to give too much away here, but Asajj Ventress is in this thing too, and you're going to be quite interested if you haven't seen this at the path she goes down. She's not dead yet. Her and Dooku have been duking it out. They bring back General Grievous, who lays the law down on this one planet with Asajj Ventress comes from a planet of, I want to say, witches. And
Night Sisters.
Was it?
Yep.
Okay. I apologize. It escaped me. What can you say? What's
the Night Sisters?
Night Sisters. Thank you. That's what it was. And I'll give one little thing away. Dooku wants them out of the way. They're duking it out. Everybody's against everybody in this section. It's really cool.
It feels like if the Jedi had only knew how much infighting was going on, they could have really capitalized on this.
It's funny because we just talked about Aftermath a moment ago, and there's so much infighting and Aftermath between the Empire, the members of the Empire, and there's also a ton of infighting here in this thing, and that's if the Jedi knew and they could have exploited it. They wouldn't have had to do too much. Just sit back and let these guys all duke it up.
It's almost hilarious. Like, the Emperor must have been losing his mind. Like, okay, he has Dooku as his apprentice.
Yeah.
He's kind of using Asajj Ventress as like a hitman, whenever you need him, kill someone. And then this whole thing with Savage Opress and Darth Maul comes back. He's got to be sitting there going, no.
So the Emperor knows. They're all talking. There's a really big disturbance in the Force in this one because I think what's happened here in this, it's very well done for cartoon Clone Wars. There's so much going on now that the Force is kind of even taking a step back. Like, hey, we got a problem. There's too many bad guys and too much power here being moved around.
Well, the rule of two is over.
Rule of two is way over
because when Maul was thought dead, okay, Dooku's the replacement. 2.
There's 5 right now.
Well, technically 3.
Well, technically 3, but
Because
Ventress has some
Asajj and
power.
Savage haven't been officially made Sith. They've
Not
just kind of
officially.
been taught enough to be useful,
Yeah.
but not really. But Maul is an official Sith Lord.
Maul's a Sith Lord.
So is Dooku.
Dooku and so
the
is
Emperor. So there's 3.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal.
But then you
because
throw in- and
that's
let's
the
throw in-
whole rule of 2 is over.
Right, and let's throw in now Grievous, who's, like I said, wait till you see, he lays the law down on the witches.
He never
Wow.
got his due in the movie.
No, and I think the only other time I can think of where you really see him go to town is in those little Clone War 5
Where he owns 4 Jedi at once.
He owns the Jedi. I mean, just destroys them, and that's where he's powerful. And they really should have. You know, my friend said years ago, I got a friend who's a big Star Wars nerd, and he said they chumped Boba Fett. And I thought, like, yeah, they really chumped Boba Fett bad.
Chumped Darth Maul.
They chumped Darth Maul, and they chumped Grievous to a point, because Grievous could have done a lot more in here.
Oh, yeah.
In the movies. So anyway, you're going to really, I hope you'll enjoy Clone Wars. I'm into Season 5 now. It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. Really quick, jumping out of that topic, we got also, oh, wait, back to a book. Gosh, there's so much to do. We're coming up on Halloween. There's a lot of really cool stuff. We're gonna start wrapping this up now. I'm reading a very cool story by Kevin Lucia, Kevin Lucia. It's called Hiram Grange. I hope I said that right. Hiram Grange and the Chosen One. It's a short story, or a short little book. It's about Hiram Grange, and it revolves around this character. Think of I put a review up on this too. Think of Blade Runner. Remember what was his name in Blade Runner? And again, that is
Which character?
The main character.
Oh, Decker.
Decker. Thank you. Think of Decker in a situation where he's running around trying to stop Lovecraftian baddies, and there's a secret government agency back there that's kind of funding him and keeping him going, and he's had some really tough stuff happen in his past, and he's kind of like an alcoholic, and he's like a Deckard, but you stick him in modern day world in going after almost like an X-Files menagerie of creatures. Cool. And this one's Lovecraftian, and it's really good. I was really impressed, and I'd really like to see a lot more. I think there's 5 total stories, and Kevin Lucia writes one of them here. So you might want to look this up. Really good stuff. We'll have a link up there too. Also reading, just had a fantasy book I read called The Wood Beyond the World by William Morris, and that's a much older book. It is written in the late 1800s. A lot of these and thous. It's a bit of a hard read if you like classic high fantasy, or fantasy before it really took off, because you really look back, and you can argue this all you want, but I'm going to just go with, for now, Tolkien, kind of the godfather of fantasy, but these are William Morris came out years before Tolkien. Whether Tolkien read him or not is unclear, or was influenced by him is unclear, but you can see a little similarity in Tolkien's writing style with this one. It's a tough book. It's a great one. It's a gentleman. He's in a land, and he has a wife who turns out to be unfaithful, and he decides to leave, and he goes to another land, and there's he encounters an enchantress, and he has to save a princess, and then he becomes the king. She and he become the king and queen of the land. I'm giving it away, but it's okay. It's a good little story, almost Shakespearean a little bit, but you might want to look this one up too. It's a
Shakespeare,
great little,
everybody die in the end.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. Some people get off here, but not as bad. And this is a fantasy story, classic fantasy, a little tough to read, but good if you want to add it to your collection. One more thing I'm looking at here too is let's see. I had another book. God, there's so much stuff to cover. Really fast. Game. We're supporting a Kickstarter for a zombie survival apocalypse game, which is great. A zombie apocalypse survival game called Outlast Westbrooke. And it's a cool little card style game with little figures and stuff. You'll see it on the site. Again, do a search for it, or just click on the link.
Never too prepared for the zombie apocalypse.
And they're making a second run at it. They didn't get through their first Kickstarter. I don't know how far they fell short, but they've got a new one, and they've got about 18 days to go. If you had a couple bucks, throw it at these guys. It's a nice little game. It's, like I said in the review, I'm always glad to see a new game see the light of day. And for music for Halloween, we've got a band, Jocko Willink again, who I mentioned last podcast. Jocko Willink is a Navy SEAL who has a really cool podcast. Look it up. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but it's very, very uplifting podcast, very interesting. He talks about a lot of military history and using what he learned in the SEALs, and he applies it to business and life and how to get yourself, really take control. And he's also grew up as a hardcore fan, and he comes up with these bands that I never even heard of. I'm quite impressed. This one is a band called 100 Demons, which we also put up on here, which is really cool. I just clicked on the thing, so I hope there wasn't any noise. 100 Demons is just a hardcore band, really cool tune. Look them up on YouTube. I thought I had the picture up here, but I'll have the link to it. So blasting through topics here because we really want to cover a lot of stuff, but we're having so much fun. We can talk
just hit the hour mark.
Hours.
I think it's time to wrap up.
This is the biggest one of all. Last but not least, a little bit of tech for you. The Mars lander from the European Russian lander. It appears at this point it did not make it. It was 50 seconds from touchdown. They lost contact.
Because the alien shot it down.
The alien shot it down, or they landed it right next to the pyramids, and they don't want anybody to see. So it lost contact, quote unquote. Darn. And so we'll get Mulder and Scully on that as fast as possible and find out what really happened. But hopefully there's a deep throat out there to drop us some documents. So that's kind of some bad news, but it's a good thing to keep in mind when you're seeing all this talk about landing on Mars. I think more than 50% of the attempts to Mars have failed. So when they're like, oh, we're going to send a man to Mars, it's not quite that easy. And when you can't even get a droid there. And there's a very cool thing we cover on the site also called the oh dear, where is it? It's a camera. It's oh shoot, I'm not going to find it now. I had covered a drone. It's a drone. It's a drone camera that actually follows you around. Really cool. And it just came out. It's not. I think you got to buy it through the site. And it's oh, here it is. The hover camera. I apologize. The hover camera, and it's this rectangular looking camera, and it flies around. It's got looks like it's got 4 propellers in there, and it flies around, and it can actually recognize your face and follow you as you're walking down the street. So it's going to be kind of cool down the road to see people walk along.
We need to make it easier for Skynet to do this.
Following me along to make sure I do what I'm told. But at any rate, it's a lot of fun now, but once it's taken over by a malevolent AI, it's really going to suck for all of us.
Yeah.
And last is still a couple more really fast things. We got a couple quick movies for you to look over. If you want to look at some cool trailers on Sci-Clops.com, look up for coming up for Halloween, paranormal thriller Deadly Intent. That was one about after the tragic death of her husband, a soldier posted to Afghanistan. I hope I'm saying his name right. Brianny tries to build a new life for herself and her young son James. But James is getting kind of odd and weird, and he's by himself a lot, and he's starting to act out a lot of death scenes with his toys, and something else is beginning to appear, like a presence or something evil here. It's really cool. A lot of little fun Halloween films. Some paranormal goodness. Another one, Abbey Grace. We've got a trailer and photos for that one too up. And it looks like a lot of fun because it's an overpunished student from a boarding school gone bad. And it looks like her ghost is popping up. Some people move into a boarding school, a house that was a boarding school, where a whole bunch of people had killed themselves. Always a great purchase. And one of them is turning back up again with some really nasty intentions.
The problem with all these movies is, in real life, the second something weird happened, you're out of the house.
Yeah, you're out of the house.
No one will ever stay there.
Does anyone on there, if you're listening to us, do you remember Eddie Murphy's first, when he first came out and he was talking about when the difference between black people and white people moving into a haunted house.
Oh my God,
the Amityville Horror, which is hysterical.
As awful as the movie was, because I don't really like the Wayans brothers all that much. Yep. But the Wayans brothers, I think, made a parody of Paranormal Activity. Yeah. And the first thing ever was the wife shows him. You remember the thing in Poltergeist where the wife watches the chair move and she shows her husband?
Yep.
And the husband's like, oh, that's weird. And this one, they do the same thing. She shows him the chair move. He flips out. He starts throwing stuff in suitcases. She's like, what are you doing? What am I doing? The house is haunted. We are leaving. And I'm like, there we go. That is what really happens.
Totally Eddie Murphy, you know.
Yeah.
And he says, like, white people come in the Amityville Horror, and they're like, oh, what a beautiful house. What a nice old Victorian place. I can't wait to live here. Get out. Like, oh, I think we'll stick around. And then the black people move in. Like, what a beautiful house. I can't wait to live. Get out. We out of here. I love that. I would love to. I got to see if I can get that clip up. That's hysterical because it's so true. I mean, impose you guys. When you're working in the kitchen and you turn around and you turn back around and all the chairs in the kitchen are stacked up to the ceiling, it's time to
burn the house down and leave.
The last thing I'm doing is flicking the cigarette back in behind me, back in the door while I'm running down and let the house burn. Screw that, man. How much does it take to get you out of a house? But anyway, you know, it's one of those movies, Abbey Grace. One of those movies where, you know, the people are in the house and God knows why they're sticking around, but, you know, somebody hung themselves and someone's buried here and someone's dead there. All that being said, we're going to wrap it up. We've gone a little long.
Have a nice day.
We really have. We really enjoy you listening. Remember, we're on Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We got the website, and please subscribe or listen to the podcast, share it. And, you know, if you like it, let us know. Give us a thumbs up. And in the meantime, keep the geek and have a great week.
Bye-bye.